Tonight, we're going somewhere terrifying. You think of early humans as gentle, scared creatures, shivering in caves. Nice, but what if I told you the reason they survived isn't that they were smart, but that they were the world's first, most patient serial killers? They didn't beat the lion, they simply ran it to death, then used a rock to crack open its dinner. By the time they finished, 85% of Earth's biggest animals were gone. This wasn't survival. This was a takeover. Lie back and let's see why you were the monster. I want you to close your eyes, dim the lights if you haven't already, and feel the dust between your toes. You are standing on the East African savanna, maybe 2 million years ago. The sun is a sledgehammer beating down on your shoulders. You're skinny, mostly hairless, built like a runner who skipped leg day, and you probably weigh less than an average modern teenager. Look around you. You see lions, hyenas, massive saber-toothed cats, and crocodiles the size of a small car. Every single thing here is faster, stronger, and better equipped to kill you. This place is less of a garden and more of an all-you-can-eat buffet where you are the cheapest item on the menu. You're not feeling very terrifying yet, are you? But here's the reality check, the thing that changes the calculus of this primeval math. If I dropped you right now, with all your modern softness, into this exact spot and gave you a week to survive, you probably won't survive this. But the you standing there, the early human Homo species, is already equipped with a horrifying set of capabilities that make you the scariest creature on this entire plane, even if no one knows it yet. So, before you get too comfortable and the dark thoughts start creeping in, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. If this story makes you uncomfortable, that means it's working. Do it now, because once we start this journey, there's no turning back. Now, dim the lights, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You shift your weight. What do you feel? Not muscle that can bench press a rock, but pure, wiry endurance. Your defining characteristic is a feature no other large mammal has managed to pull off to the same degree. You can sweat. Oh, you can sweat like you just ran a marathon in a fleece blanket. But that is your superpower. While the lion hunting you has to pant frantically, losing efficiency as its body temperature climbs to dangerous levels, you are a walking evaporative cooling system. You are nature's only large bipedal radiator. You don't have speed, but you have the most terrifying thing of all, relentless efficiency. You are the creature that never, ever stops. Your mind, the one tucked away inside that slightly oversized skull, is already working differently. You're not just reacting to the savannah, you are analyzing it. You see a distant vulture circling, and your primitive brain doesn't just see a bird, it sees a blinking neon sign flashing, "Free half-eating carcass this way." You're not strong enough to kill the gazelle yourself, not yet, but you are smart enough to realize that a cat is always lazier and shorter-sighted than you are. Your diet, the first indicator of your terror, is what truly sets you apart. Forget vegetarian gentlefolk nibbling roots. While you do forage, your body is optimized for high-octane fuel. You are an omnivore, leaning heavily toward meat and fat. Why? Because that dense caloric intake is what powers that ridiculously energy-hungry brain of yours. Early Homo species showed dramatic cranial expansion compared to their Australopithecine ancestors, a change directly linked to shifting from a low-quality herbivore diet to one including meat and marrow. You didn't just eat meat, you became pathologically obsessed with it. You look down at your hand. You are one of the first creatures on the planet to intentionally use tools to modify the world around you. You're holding what looks like a simple rock, a crude teardrop-shaped chopper. It's heavy, balanced, and its edge, though rough, is shockingly sharp. It's an Oldowan stone tool, and it's not for cracking nuts. It's a weapon of specialization. See that massive elephant carcass lying half-submerged near the watering hole? A short while ago, a family of hyenas was having a feast, but you and the 4 members of your small group are now cautiously approaching. The hyenas might scatter, but the truly terrifying part is the action you are about to take. You don't care about the muscle meat, it's too tough, the hyenas have already taken the best cuts, and you don't want to mess with their social dynamics. Your target is the long bones. You lift the heavy stone chopper and bring it down with shocking, focused force onto the femur. Crack. The sound echoes. You repeat the process, turning the bone into a smashed mess. Why? Because inside, encased by the bone, is the marrow. Pure, rich, creamy, easily digestible fat. This is the ultimate prize. You are a bone breaker. Think about that. Every other carnivore on the savannah has to fight to the death over muscle tissue. You, the skinny newcomer, show up after the feast, after the predators have left, and you steal the single most calorically dense part of the entire animal, the fat that provides the energy necessary to run for another 6 hours in the sun, powering the brain that is already calculating your next terrifying move. This is the quirk of early survival. You outate the competition by targeting their leftovers, but they're high-value leftovers. Historians still argue whether the early widespread use of stone tools was primarily for processing scavenged meat or for defense against other hominids, which is a chilling thought. Did you invent the world's first industrial-strength kitchen utensil or the first mass-produced weapon of war? Either way, you are using high-grade precision violence even on an inanimate bone. Your eyes meet the eyes of a retreating cheetah. It doesn't look at you with the respect that shows an approaching lion. It looks at you with a confusing mix of contempt and vague irritation. You are a pest. You are an annoyance. You are not a threat in a direct fight. Not yet. But the cheetah is designed for a 3-minute sprint. You are designed for a 6-hour marathon. The cheetah needs to kill the animal and eat it now. You will wait until the cheetah, the lion, and the hyena are all tired, and you will walk calmly, methodically to the scraps, carrying your terrifying tool that turns leftovers into the fuel for your evolutionary dominance. You are not a predator. You are something far worse, an apex scavenger who steals the profit from the labor of every other hunter. And you have the patience of a stone statue. You have figured out how to win the calorie war without fighting a single fair duel. You stand next to the cracked elephant femur, scraping the last dollop of marrow from the inside. The sun is high, punishingly hot, and the air smells like dried dung and warm decay. The hyenas are gone, retreating to shade and water, confident they took the best cuts. They left the bones, the trash. But for you, the early Homo, this trash is pure gold. This ability to extract resources that others discard is the first true sign of your terrifying ingenuity. Think about the sheer audacity of this existence. You are essentially wandering around the deadliest neighborhood on the planet, waiting for the neighbors to finish eating so you can break into their doggy bag. You're not just relying on luck, you're relying on a deep, almost clinical understanding of carnivore psychology and ecology. You know the rhythms of the kill. You know when the big cats are full, groggy, and least likely to want a confrontation over scraps they deem beneath them. Some fringe anthropological theories suggest that early human use of fire, even before mastery, was for purposefully frightening off smaller scavengers like jackals from a carcass, while the apex predators were still present, maximizing the caloric yield before the lions returned. You were literally trolling the food chain. You look out at the savannah again. You are not a great sprinter. You are certainly not a great climber. But your greatest weapon right now is your incredible vision, combined with your terrifying level of patience. You spot the circling vultures from kilometers away, and your internal map immediately processes the data. High elevation, spiraling descent, fresh kill. You and your group start walking. You don't run. You maintain a steady, unhurried, mile-eating pace. This is where your bone-breaking fuel pays off. That marrow is sustaining a slow, grinding approach that will inevitably bring you to the prize. This era of being an apex scavenger, not a killer, but a world-class thief, is what forged your future dominance. It was selected for traits that were far more lethal in the long run than brute strength. cunning, social cohesion, and persistence. You had to coordinate with your small group. You didn't just walk to the kill, you had a plan. Someone carries the water bladder, made from an animal stomach, of course, because nothing goes to waste. Someone carries the best choppers, and someone, probably the youngest and fastest, acts as the lookout, constantly scanning the tree lines for the disgruntled owner of the kill. This is where the gentle sarcasm comes in. You essentially had the world's most dangerous early warning system. Hey Mildred, is that a lion taking a nap over there? Great, let's get in and out quickly. We don't want to disturb his beauty rest, do we? It's a terrifying high-stakes game of smash and grab. You learn to read the landscape with devastating efficiency. The slightest disturbance in the tall grass, a bent stem, or a disturbed termite mound gives away the presence of danger or opportunity. Your brain is a supercomputer analyzing risk and reward. Is the hyena clan big enough to risk the encounter? Can we get to the ribs and be gone before the leopard wakes up? This constant low-grade life-or-death decision-making honed your cognitive abilities faster than any other creature on the plane. Historians still argue whether the move from arboreal, tree-dwelling existence to bipedalism was primarily driven by the need to efficiently carry resources like water or scavenged bones back to a home base, or if it was purely a temperature regulation strategy to minimize sun exposure. Either way, that upright stance, while making you look a little wobbly, gives you the height advantage to spot those distant vultures and the stability to carry your terrifying tools. You are a specialist in the marginal economy. You take the leftover meat clinging to the bone, the tendons, the tough scraps, and the fat, rich marrow, using your sharp stone tools to access every bit of nutrition. Think of the modern equivalent. Every other species is buying the high-end cuts at the supermarket. You're the guy dumpster diving behind the best butcher shop, and you're finding gold in the garbage. And because you are eating what others neglect, you are building up the energy reserves and the specialized brain power that will allow you to stop scavenging and start creating your own kill through sheer, horrifying persistence. You are becoming a hunter, not by being fast, but by being the ultimate long-term planner. Early Homo erectus remains show evidence of long, sturdy leg bones and arched feet, anatomical adaptations optimized for efficient, long-distance walking and running, rather than climbing. Your body is a machine built for travel, built to track, built to chase. You can literally walk the larger, faster animals into exhaustion. Your transformation from cautious thief to relentless executioner is already etched into your skeleton. That bone marrow is now fueling the next evolution in terror, the ability to run your prey to death. You are transitioning from the world's greatest squatter to the world's first endurance athlete with a stone axe. The scraping and bone-smashing phase is ending. You've mastered the art of scavenging, but it's a life defined by waiting for other, more impressive creatures to do the heavy lifting. Now, your terrifying evolutionary path demands more than patience and thievery. It demands blood, sweat, and sheer grinding effort. The game changes from finding a kill to making one, not with strength, but with physics and pure, relentless stamina. You look at a healthy zebra grazing in the distance. A lion sees a 40-second sprint, a terrifying explosion of power, and hopefully a quick kill. You, the early human, see a magnificent high-octane engine that has one fatal flaw: it overheats. This is the era of persistence hunting, and it is perhaps the most terrifying psychological method of predation ever devised. You don't outrun the zebra, you simply show up the moment it stops running. You are a biological heat-seeking missile designed to exploit the midday sun. The hunt begins. Your group, 4 or 5 strong, moves into a slow, smooth jog. The target animal, a kudu or an antelope, spots you. It panics, as it should, and launches into a breathtaking full-speed sprint. It's gone in a cloud of dust, leaving you in the heat. It's a joke, right? The antelope is designed for speed. You are designed for existing uncomfortably for a very long time. But here's the joke your ancestors are playing on the animal kingdom. While the antelope is running, its body temperature is skyrocketing. It's relying on panting to cool its brain, but it has to stop running to do that effectively. You, on the other hand, are barely breaking a sweat, literally. Your smooth, mostly hairless skin is covered in a glistening layer of sweat, instantly cooling your core. The density of eccrine sweat glands on a modern human is unmatched among large mammals, confirming the pivotal role of evaporative cooling in the evolution of Homo. You are the one creature capable of sustained aerobic activity under the tropical sun without failing catastrophically. You simply jog after the direction the antelope went. Not fast, not hard, just always. The antelope stops, hidden in a small thicket, its lungs burning, its muscles twitching, desperate for a moment of recovery. But you are there. You didn't stop. You haven't even broken stride. The antelope bolts again, now burning through its precious anaerobic reserves. A second sprint, a third. This is where the terror sets in for the prey. It's not the sight of your sharp spear or your lean body. It's the realization that you are not going away. Ever. Every time it thinks it has escaped, it turns around and there you are, a heat-shimmering two-legged wraith, just jogging. The animal isn't running from a hunter anymore. It's running from the concept of inevitability. Think about the mental toll. The antelope is panicking, wasting energy on false starts, looking for a way out that doesn't exist. You, on the other hand, are focused, communicating, and maintaining a steady, hypnotic pace. You can track a wounded or panicked animal not just by sight, but by its labored breathing and sloppy tracks. After an hour or two, the fast, majestic animal slows down. After 3 or 4 hours, the antelope is staggering, its brain overheating, its coordination failing. It's essentially cooked from the inside out. The nuchal ligament, a strong band of tissue running from the back of your skull down your neck, is a key anatomical feature supporting your massive forward-facing head while you run. Most apes and other primates don't have it to the same degree. It essentially evolved so you could keep your eyes fixed on the horizon while you run, making you look less like a human and more like a bobblehead doll that's been optimized for war. That's your neck, holding your terrifyingly smart brain steady during a death chase marathon. Finally, the antelope collapses, not because you threw a spear, but because its operating system shut down. You walk up, maybe a little winded, but functionally fine. The prey is already dying of hyperthermia and exhaustion. You have killed an animal using patience and physics, having run 20 miles just to ensure your dinner couldn't get back up. That is far more terrifying than a surprise attack. It's a calculated, grinding inevitability. Historians still argue whether persistence hunting was the primary source of protein for early Homo erectus groups, or if it was reserved for large, difficult prey while scavenging filled the daily caloric need. But regardless of its frequency, the very capacity for it proves that early humans possessed a horrifyingly specialized biological weapon, the ability to turn high noon into a killing field. You stand over your kill not with the adrenaline of a sudden rush, but with the quiet satisfaction of a terrible machine that has executed its programming flawlessly. The terrifying part is not the kill itself, but the knowledge that you can do this again and again and again, outlasting everything that relies on brute force or explosive speed. You are the ultimate long-distance killer, fueled by the scavenged fat of yesterday, creating the protein for tomorrow. The antelope is down. You and your group stand over it, the heavy breathing of the last few miles settling into the quiet hum of satisfaction. But the terrifying truth of the savannah hits you instantly. The kill is meaningless if you can't protect it. The scent of blood, even the smell of exhaustion-induced death, is a broadcast signal to every large, hungry competitor within 5 kilometers. The hyenas, the lions, even the opportunistic vultures are already closing in. You have proven you can outrun them. Now, you must prove you can outwit them. This is where your second, arguably more profound, weapon comes into play. Fire. Imagine the scene. It's twilight. You've butchered the antelope, using your stone tools to slice the muscle and break the bones for that precious marrow. But you can't carry it all. You are faced with the terrible choice of leaving food for the night shift predators or staying to guard it. This is a losing battle for a small, slightly built human. But look over your shoulder at the small, glowing, mesmerizing orange patch you've carefully nurtured. It's a crackling pile of dry wood and grass, controlled, contained fire. It's a concept so simple yet so profoundly terrifying to the ecosystem that it instantly rewrites the rules of the planet. Before fire, you were tethered to the day. You hunkered down in the dark, shivering, listening to the sounds of the true nocturnal hunters, praying you weren't spotted. You were prey. Now, you are the master of the night. The hyenas approach, their eyes gleaming in the dark. They are built for this time, strong, fearless pack animals. They smell the blood, but as they get closer, they see the fire. It's an unknown. It's hot. It dances and crackles and spits. It throws shadows that make your small group look like towering demonic silhouettes. The hyenas, built on millions of years of instinctual programming, halt. They whine, they pace, but they will not cross the invisible, shimmering wall of warmth. The controlled use of fire, likely by Homo erectus as far back as 1.5 million years ago, provided critical advantages in warmth, defense, and most importantly, cooking. This is the cornerstone of your dominance. Think about the psychological shift. You are no longer cowering from the dark. You are holding back the dark. You are safe. You can sleep in shifts. You can laugh and share the kill. The predators are forced to wait, frustrated, just outside your camp's glow. This is the ultimate non-violent defense mechanism. You're essentially telling the entire food chain, sorry, VIP section only, and you're not on the list. But fire does more than just keep the lions away. It turns your kill from survival-level fuel into high-performance brain food. You place chunks of the antelope meat near the coals. Cooking is pre-digestion. It breaks down tough fibers and connective tissues, making the meat far easier and faster to absorb. This means you need less energy to digest your food, leaving more net energy to fuel that terrifyingly large brain. Cooking also detoxifies many plant foods, dramatically expanding your dietary range and reducing the time you spend chewing. Some estimates suggest that cooking meat and tubers reduced the necessary daily chewing time for early humans by several hours compared to primates eating raw food. You traded chewing time for thinking time. No more massive jaw muscles. Now you have space for more terrifying cognition. This is why you look so different from the gorilla. You hired fire to do your chewing for you. Fire creates a new social contract. People gather around it, they share food, something you now have a surplus of because it's preserved and protected. The firelight becomes the space for complex communication, planning tomorrow's long chase, or perhaps more terrifyingly, engaging in early forms of abstract thought and storytelling. You are no longer just a collection of individuals, you are a cohesive, thinking, night-dominating pack. Historians still argue whether the earliest deliberate control of fire evolved from opportunistically grabbing embers from natural bushfires, or if it was independently invented multiple times through techniques like friction drilling or striking pyrite. Regardless of how you got it, the moment you realized you could create that orange light on demand, you became the first true elemental engineer, holding a power that literally no other creature could touch. This mastery of fire is not just survival, it is the ultimate expression of control. You are warm, you are safe, and you are fueling a brain that is rapidly becoming the most complex piece of biological machinery on the planet. The early human watching the fire flicker is not just surviving, he is pondering, calculating, and planning to expand the territory of that terrifying warmth. You have transcended the savanna's rules, and you are about to export this terrifying mastery to the rest of the world. You've mastered fire and the art of running down an antelope until its brain cooks. You're starting to feel confident, perhaps a little too confident. You've conquered the savanna, pushing back the darkness and redefining dinner. But you are not alone in the world. You have neighbors, cousins even, who are built on a terrifyingly different scale of physical power. Imagine leaving the warm, predictable climate of Africa, pushing into the glacial cold of Ice Age Europe and Asia. You're moving out of your comfort zone, and suddenly you are face to face with the original terrifying human model, the Neanderthal. Forget the simplistic image of the knuckle-dragging brute. When you stand next to a Neanderthal, you realize just how slender and delicate you are. The Neanderthal is a tank. They are shorter, stockier, and built like a compressed rugby player, perfectly adapted to the brutal cold. Their bodies are masterpieces of cold weather survival, with massive trunks and limbs that minimize surface area, keeping the heat in. They are, quite simply, brutally strong. A modern comparison? You, the Homo sapiens, are the long-distance runner, the sniper, the accountant. The Neanderthal is the power lifter, the wrestler, the front row forward. Skeletal analysis of Neanderthals shows that their arms and hands were significantly more robust than those of modern humans, indicating a life of immense physical stress, likely due to close quarters hunting of large, dangerous animals like woolly rhinoceroses and cave bears. You witness a Neanderthal hunt. There is no persistence running here. They are not waiting for the sun to overheat the prey. They are engaging in terrifying close-quarters combat, using heavy, thrusting spears, tools designed not to be thrown, but to be jammed with lethal force. They confront massive megafauna head-on. Imagine the sheer guts required to run up to a distressed woolly mammoth and stab it with a pointy stick. Their survival was based on raw, terrifying courage and power. Their tools, the Mosterian toolkit, are highly sophisticated, relying on the Lavallois technique, a complex, multi-step process for preparing a stone core to reliably produce sharp, predictable flakes. This isn't brute force, it's advanced, strategic stone engineering. They are not simpletons, they are highly skilled craftspeople who specialize in maximum yield from minimal raw material. You look at their work and recognize genius, tempered by massive physical exertion. And here's the most terrifying aspect. Their brains were, on average, slightly larger than yours. Historians still argue whether the larger cranial capacity of Neanderthals translates into better cognitive abilities, or if the difference simply relates to their larger, more massive bodies requiring more neural tissue for control. But the fact remains, you are dealing with a being that is physically superior and technologically refined. Evidence from Neanderthal remains suggests that they suffered from extraordinarily high rates of fractures, particularly in the head and neck region, consistent with modern rodeo riders. This strongly suggests their hunting style involved direct, terrifyingly dangerous engagement with massive animals, often leading to broken bones and chronic pain. They lived, and often died, in a constant state of mortal risk. They were tough, brutally tough. The conflict between your species, the slender, sweating, persistence runner, and the powerful, cold-adapted brawler, is not an immediate head-to-head battlefield blowout. It's a slow, grinding process of two different evolutionary terrors vying for the same territory. You have the networking advantage. You can adapt your tools and social groups faster. The Neanderthal has the physical strength and the cold weather specialization. When you observe them, you feel a complicated mix of fear and recognition. They bury their dead. They care for their wounded and elderly. They show surprising signs of symbolic behavior, perhaps even creating early art or ornaments. You see terrifying strength, yes, but also a reflection of your own budding humanity. Yet this resemblance is what makes the inevitable conflict so chilling. You are witnessing the raw, physical power of a highly successful hominin lineage. You are watching a life defined by intense specialization, massive caloric demands, and terrifying individual strength. Your success, as we'll see, won't come from matching their strength, but from subtly outmaneuvering their way of life, a much quieter and ultimately more terrifying form of violence. You are learning that sometimes the greatest terror is not the creature with the biggest muscles, but the creature with the most adaptable brain. You are starting to believe that your relatively weak hands and fast-twitch thinking are more dangerous than their colossal strength. You leave the imposing shadow of the Neanderthal behind, carrying the subtle, chilling knowledge of their power. You realize that your survival against a physical marvel like that will not be won by growing bigger muscles, but by innovating sharper ideas.
The next leap in your terrifying ascent involves taking those simple rock choppers from Section 1 and turning them into instruments of cold, calculated ballistic violence. You look down at the stone in your hand. It's no longer the heavy, fist-sized core you used for cracking bones. Now it's a meticulously crafted piece of flint, maybe 5 inches long, triangular, and sharpened to a wickedly thin point. This is the hafted projectile point, the technological moment that instantly made you a predator operating at a safe, deadly distance. Before, you were running the prey down to exhaustion, then getting uncomfortably close for the messy, tiring kill. Now you are transforming kinetic energy into instant catastrophic trauma. You are no longer engaging in a wrestling match with an elk. You are ending the fight before it starts. This wasn't an easy invention. It required a cognitive leap that separates you from all other hominids. It's not enough to shape the stone. You must conceptualize the invisible forces of ballistics and aerodynamics. You have to invent glue, using tree sap and ochre, and rope, using sinew or plant fiber. You take the sharp stone point and securely attach it to a straight, lightweight wooden shaft. This simple act, combining two disparate materials to create a tool greater than the sum of its parts, is terrifying evidence of your advanced engineering mind. The widespread adoption of hafted tools, especially the spear thrower or atlatl, and eventually the bow and arrow, allowed Homo sapiens to hunt smaller, faster game more efficiently, and to engage megafauna from a safe distance, drastically reducing the risk of hunting-related injury compared to the thrusting spears used by Neanderthals. Now, instead of relying solely on the heat of the day, you rely on leverage. You use the atlatl, a simple notched stick, as an extension of your arm. It doesn't look like much, but it effectively lengthens your throwing limb, allowing you to launch that lightweight spear with unbelievable speed and force. The trajectory is flat, the velocity is high, and the sharp stone tip is designed to do one thing: penetrate deep and cause massive internal bleeding. The difference in terror is stark. When you corner an animal, the confrontation is loud and dangerous. When you use a projectile, the confrontation is silent and inevitable. You can now stalk a herd, pick out a target, the slightly limping juvenile, the inattentive female, and deliver a lethal blow from 20 or 30 meters away. The animal runs, but the damage is done. You simply follow the blood trail. You have outsourced the hard, messy work of killing to physics. You are the original standoff warrior. The careful flaking used to create the lethal points, known as pressure flaking, is so precise that the process requires intense hand-eye coordination and fine motor control. It's essentially the Stone Age version of microengineering. The resulting fracture scars on the stone are so distinct that archaeologists can often identify the work of individual ancient artisans. Your specialized tools were not crude survival gear. They were highly refined, specialized instruments of engineered violence. This technological leap changed your entire society. Hunting became safer, more predictable, and more efficient, supporting larger groups and specialized roles. The guy who could throw a spear farthest was perhaps more valuable than the guy who could lift the heaviest rock. This shift favored intelligence, planning, and specialized skill over pure brute strength. It was the moment that brains definitively overcame brawn on a global scale. Historians still argue whether the introduction of highly effective projectile weaponry like the atlatl was the single most decisive advantage that Homo sapiens had over the Neanderthals during the competition for resources in Ice Age Europe, or if it was merely one factor among many, including differences in social organization. You are not just a creature with tools anymore. You are a biological force multiplier. You have effectively given yourself the fangs of a saber-toothed cat and the range of a bird of prey, all while standing safely behind a bush. You are armed with the cold, hard logic of geometry, ballistics, and material science. The terrifying part is not the violence itself, but the abstraction of the violence. The animal is dead before it even realizes you were the threat. The animals of the world are about to learn that the weakest-looking hominin is in fact the most dangerous because you carry the terrifying power of distance. You have the projectile points, you have the fire, and you have the ability to run all day. You are no longer just surviving on the savannah, you are beginning to dominate it. But your terrifying story does not end in Africa. The next chapter involves a massive expansion, a migration out of your ancestral homeland and across the globe. And everywhere you go, the results are the same. Rapid, widespread, and devastating collapse of local megafauna. This is the era of the Pleistocene overkill, where you transform from a regional predator into an ecosystem engineer, a terrifying force that reshapes entire continental food webs. Imagine your ancestors pushing across the Bering Land Bridge into North America, or island hopping into Australia, perhaps as little as 50,000 years ago, and encountering environments where no human-like predator had ever set foot. In Australia, you find creatures ripped from a fantasy novel, massive flightless birds, ground sloths the size of cars, giant wombats and reptiles that dwarf modern crocodiles. These animals had evolved in isolation, without the subtle, specialized terror of Homo sapiens. They weren't afraid of you. Why would they be? They could crush you instantly. Within a relatively short geological time frame, perhaps only a few thousand years after human expansion, Australia lost 85% of its large mammal species, a mass extinction event strongly correlated with the timing of human expansion. You, the newcomer, armed with persistence, fire, and those terrifying stone-tipped spears, remember those carefully engineered ballistic points, presented an evolutionary challenge the native megafauna simply couldn't answer. You didn't just hunt them, you systematically dismantled their population structures. Why the wipeout? Because these large animals were naive. They hadn't learned the two key lessons that every zebra and kudu in Africa knew. One, don't stand still when the skinny bipeds are jogging toward you, and two, never approach that strange, crackling orange thing called fire. One particularly chilling theory about the Australian extinction centers on your use of fire not just for cooking and protection, but as a landscape management tool. By deliberately setting massive, low-intensity fires, you could clear dense underbrush, forcing game into the open, and over time, transforming the environment from fire-sensitive rainforest to fire-adapted scrubland, starving out the animals who depended on the original foliage. You were literally burning down the houses of the competition, creating a new, simpler ecosystem tailored to your hunting needs. The arrival of Homo sapiens in any new, isolated environment often correlates perfectly with the disappearance of its largest, slowest reproducing animals. This is the Blitzkrieg effect. You didn't have to be a perfect hunter, you just had to be good enough to kill slightly more animals than the population could replace. And because you focused on the largest, fattest, and therefore most reproductively valuable animals, the populations crashed quickly and irreversibly. Consider the mammoth in North America. Huge, intimidating, but slow to reproduce. You find a family group. You harass them relentlessly. Remember that persistence hunting skill you perfected? Driving them toward a ravine or a mud pit. Once trapped, your projectile weapons rain down death from a safe distance. You leave hundreds of pounds of meat for your clan, and you've eliminated multiple decades of reproductive potential from the mammoth herd. This is not simple predation, it is ecological warfare. Historians still argue whether the extinction of the megafauna was caused primarily by human hunting pressure, climate change following the last ice age, or a combination of the two. But the chronological pattern, humans arrive, megafauna disappear, is a terrifyingly persistent global signature. You are the first species to export its terror on a planetary scale. You don't adapt to the environment, you force the environment to adapt to you. The landscapes you walk across become instantly simpler, less diverse, and more predictable. A world made safer, yes, but also fundamentally impoverished by your presence. The terrifying legacy of early humans is not just that you survived, but who didn't. You look out over the vast, emptying plains and realize you are no longer just a predator. You are an evolutionary force, a walking, jogging, spear-throwing catastrophe for anything big and slow. The only thing standing in your way now is the microscopic terror you carry inside your own body.
You've wiped out the Australian megafauna, pushed into Europe, and perfected the art of projectile murder. You are a successful, conquering species, spreading across the globe, bringing your terrifying ingenuity everywhere you go. But there is a silent, microscopic terror that lurks both outside and inside your body, a force of nature that proves you are not immune to the ruthless math of survival: disease. As you move and conquer, you encounter new environments, new animal populations, and new hominin groups. Remember those strong Neanderthals? Each encounter is a biological lottery, and the consequences for the losing side are often complete, terrifying annihilation. Think about your immune system right now. It is a biological weapon, finely tuned by generations of high-stakes survival. When you first step into a new continent or meet an isolated group, you are carrying with you a suitcase full of specialized, evolved germs. These are the bacteria and viruses that your group has learned to live with: the common cold, minor gut parasites, maybe a latent herpes virus. To your group, they are manageable annoyances. To a population that has never encountered them, they are a biological blitzkrieg. The earliest great pandemics, though poorly documented in deep prehistory, follow a pattern established later. Infectious diseases originating in one population often have devastating effects on naive populations, lacking generational immunity. The success of early Homo sapiens migration was, in part, a biological success story, driven by a superior, or at least more experienced, immune system. Consider the contact with the Neanderthals. While you might have been better at throwing spears, the possibility exists that the ultimate conflict was fought not with stone, but with microbes. You are a highly mobile intergroup communicator, trading and interacting across wide distances. This mobility exposes you to a wider array of pathogens, forcing your immune system to constantly adapt and evolve. The Neanderthal, living in smaller, more geographically isolated groups in colder environments, might have been cleaner but also less biologically robust against invading African pathogens. You don't need to physically stab your competitor to cause extinction. You just need to breathe on them. Some genetic evidence suggests that while Homo sapiens introduced diseases to Neanderthals, we also picked up some terrifying Neanderthal diseases as well. Up to 2% of modern human DNA, inherited from these early interspecies encounters, includes genes related to immune response. We took their land and they left us biological booby traps, genes that helped us fight off new pathogens, but potentially contributed to modern allergic disorders. We literally still carry the biological scars of that ancient contact. This microbial terror also dictates the terrifying survival strategy of your own group. If a new virulent pathogen appears, say a particularly nasty influenza carried by a bird you hunted, the outcome is brutal. The group member who survives is the one with the slight genetic variants, the better T-cell response, the immune system that can pivot faster. The sick are quickly isolated, or sometimes tragically abandoned. It's an incredibly cold calculation, but a necessary one. The group must survive, and every diseased member is a liability and a vector. Historians still argue whether the rapid disappearance of Neanderthals was primarily due to direct competition for resources with Homo sapiens, or if the pressure of disease vectors introduced by the newly arrived populations was the silent principal killer that destabilized their small groups. The question is less about your spear and more about your sputum. You realize that your ability to survive as a small, highly mobile band requires a terrifyingly efficient, fast-acting biological defense. Your body is a microscopic war zone, constantly adapting to the environment, killing off your weaker members and rewarding the most resilient genes. You are a living, breathing laboratory of biological evolution. This constant, invisible pressure molds you not just into a better hunter, but into a tougher, more pathogen-resistant survivor. The very act of coughing on a new continent is an act of unconscious, devastating warfare, proving that your terror comes in all scales, from the millimeter-sized spear point to the nanometer-sized virus. You have survived the perils of disease, outsmarted the megafauna, and watched your biggest competitors fade away. Now let's turn the lens inward, because the most chilling source of your terror isn't your spear or your immune system. It is the psychology of your own small group. You are a Homo sapiens living in a highly coordinated, intensely social band of perhaps 25 to 50 individuals. This small, tightly knit group is an evolutionary masterpiece, but it's also a terrifying engine of focused, deliberate violence. You don't hunt alone, and you certainly don't fight alone. Imagine a confrontation with a rival group over a prime resource, a riverbend with reliable water, or a rock shelter with good insulation. It's not a disorganized brawl, it's a terrifyingly coordinated military operation. Your brain, evolved for complex planning and communication, remember all that extra energy from the cooked meat? Allows for tactical coordination that no other animal can match. You and your group can engage in coalitionary violence, where multiple individuals plan and execute an attack on a single target with a high degree of synchronization. One person acts as a distraction, another cuts off the escape route, and two others deliver the killing blows with those engineered projectile points. This is the difference between a pack of chimps having a disorganized frenzy and a human raiding party executing a silent, effective ambush. Early archaeological sites such as the Jebel Sahaba Cemetery in Sudan show skeletal remains dating back thousands of years that include multiple individuals with embedded projectile points and extensive trauma, providing strong evidence of organized, systematic intergroup violence during the late Pleistocene. This wasn't isolated murder, it was coordinated conflict. The terror here is the in-group loyalty and the out-group dehumanization. Your survival depends entirely on the people immediately around the fire. This intense bonding means that external threats, any stranger, any competing group, are viewed not just as rivals for resources, but as existential threats. The instinct to defend your band overrides almost every other ethical consideration. This psychological framing, us versus them, is a terrifying precursor to all later human warfare. Historians still argue whether early human violence was primarily defensive, focused on protecting territory and food from other bands, or if it was predominantly proactive raiding, designed to acquire resources, women, and territory from weaker neighbors. Either way, the capacity for strategic, organized conflict was already deeply woven into your social fabric. This constant, low-level conflict acted as a massive selective pressure. Groups that were better at communication, better at following a leader, and better at suppressing individual panic during a fight were the groups that survived and expanded. You are inheriting the genes of the best early killers. The uniquely human ability to throw accurately and powerfully is intrinsically linked to this specialized social violence. While throwing might have evolved partly for hunting, the speed and accuracy with which a human male can launch a projectile is far greater than required for just killing a gazelle.
Many researchers suggest this power-throwing ability evolved specifically for the terrifying purpose of asymmetrical conflict with other humans, allowing a smaller, weaker individual to quickly disable a stronger opponent from a distance. The terror is in the fastball. Your capacity for empathy is wide, but it is horrifyingly shallow. You care deeply for the 25 people you know, but you are utterly indifferent or actively hostile to the 25 strangers just over the hill. You have the ability to plan, to anticipate, and to harbor resentment, the terrifying cocktail of psychological traits needed to execute a premeditated attack. You are the first species on this planet capable of consciously plotting the total extermination of your own kind for a strategic advantage. You are not a mindless beast killing for hunger. You are a thinking being killing for profit, stability, and survival. The chilling efficiency with which you and your comrades coordinate and eliminate a threat makes your small band far more terrifying than any solitary lion. Your strength lies not in your muscles, but in the terrifying, organized unity of your murderous intent.
The capacity for coalitionary violence from the last section, the organized attack on rival groups, leads us directly to the darkest, most unsettling aspect of early human existence, the evidence of cannibalism and dark rituals. This is where the terrifying efficiency of your survival strategy intersects with emerging abstract thought, blurring the lines between necessity and symbolic violence. You are a species obsessed with calories. Remember the bone marrow from the beginning? When resources are desperately scarce, every potential calorie source is considered. But the archaeological record suggests that early humans often consumed each other not just out of starvation, but as a systematic practice, incorporating elements of ritual and trophy-taking. Imagine the aftermath of that intergroup conflict we discussed. The defeated bodies are not simply left to the hyenas. Instead, they are processed with the same terrifying, meticulous efficiency that you use on an antelope or a mammoth. Evidence from numerous Paleolithic sites across Europe and Asia, such as Atapuerca in Spain and Gough's Cave in England, shows human remains with cut marks identical to those used for butchering animals, suggesting the systematic removal of muscle tissue. Furthermore, long bones are often deliberately broken to access the marrow, exactly as you would do with a deer, confirming that caloric extraction was a motive. This act is terrifying because it shows the complete psychological separation between us, the group around the fire, and them, the killed rivals. The victim is demoted from a human being to a mere resource, a high-value piece of meat. But here is where the terror goes beyond mere survival, the evidence of ritualistic consumption and trophy-taking. At some sites, specific parts of the body are treated differently. For instance, skulls are sometimes meticulously cleaned and the edges smoothed, suggesting they were retained as calvaria, skull cups, for use in ceremony or display. This is not just the capacity for coalitionary violence from the last section, the organized attack on rival groups, leads us directly to the darkest, most unsettling aspect of early human existence, the evidence of cannibalism and dark rituals. This is where the terrifying efficiency of your survival strategy intersects with emerging abstract thought, blurring the lines between necessity and symbolic violence. You are a species obsessed with calories. Remember the bone marrow from the beginning? When resources are desperately scarce, every potential calorie source is considered. But the archaeological record suggests that early humans often consumed each other not just out of starvation, but as a systematic practice, incorporating elements of ritual and trophy-taking. Imagine the aftermath of that intergroup conflict we discussed. The defeated bodies are not simply left to the hyenas. Instead, they are processed with the same terrifying, meticulous efficiency that you use on an antelope or a mammoth. Evidence from numerous Paleolithic sites across Europe and Asia, such as Atapuerca in Spain and Gough's Cave in England, shows human remains with cut marks identical to those used for butchering animals, suggesting the systematic removal of muscle tissue. Furthermore, long bones are often deliberately broken to access the marrow, exactly as you would do with a deer, confirming that caloric extraction was a motive. This act is terrifying because it shows the complete psychological separation between us, the group around the fire, and them, the killed rivals. The victim is demoted from a human being to a mere resource, a high-value piece of meat. But here is where the terror goes beyond mere survival, the evidence of ritualistic consumption and trophy-taking. At some sites, specific parts of the body are treated differently. For instance, skulls are sometimes meticulously cleaned and the edges smoothed, suggesting they were retained as calvaria, skull cups, for use in ceremony or display. This is not just a practical act, it is a profound symbolic act. The practice of curation, carrying and preserving bones or tools for long periods also extended to human remains. Some sites show highly specialized cranial manipulation, such as the practice of removing the brain and cleaning the inside of the skull through the foramen magnum, the large hole at the base of the skull. This suggests not simply eating, but a careful, almost respectful, or maybe purely terrifying ceremonial treatment of the dead, perhaps intended to consume the victim's essence or strength. Think about the psychological impact on your group. By consuming a vanquished rival, you are asserting ultimate dominance. You are internalizing their physical strength and their social defeat. You are performing an act of power designed to bind your group together through a shared, dark secret. Historians still argue whether the documented instances of Paleolithic cannibalism were strictly exocannibalism, eating outsiders or enemies, or if it also included endocannibalism, eating deceased family members as a form of reverence or grieving, which would represent two different but equally profound forms of ritual. Regardless, the deliberate handling of human remains in ways that go far beyond simple disposal points to an early, terrifying development of abstract meaning. You realize that this systematic processing of human bodies requires a cold-bloodedness and focus that is truly chilling. You are not only capable of coalitionary violence, but also of reducing your enemy to its component parts and utilizing every scrap. You are a biological machine that wastes nothing, not even the protein and marrow of your own kind. This behavior, turning the body of a fellow hominin into a resource and a ritual object, is the ultimate expression of the terrifying, efficient pragmatism that defines early human success. It shows a species already grappling with the concepts of identity, power, and death, and using those concepts to justify the most brutal acts imaginable. This ability to layer symbolic meaning onto violence is the true hallmark of your terror, paving the way for the next great leap: shared, unifying beliefs. The terror of early humanity now moves entirely into the brain. You've mastered physical violence, social organization, and ecological control. But none of that means anything without the ability to unite a larger group under an invisible banner. This is the moment your species discovered the terrifying, unifying force of shared delusion, early spirituality. You are no longer just a small, hyper-local band of 25 people who know each other by name. You are encountering other groups, and you need a mechanism to coordinate action, share information, and establish dominance over vast, unforgiving territories. That mechanism is not a gene or a spear, it's an idea.
Think about the world you inhabit. It's violent, unpredictable, and filled with forces you cannot control. Lightning strikes, flash floods, sickness, and the unpredictable movement of the game. To survive, you need to impose order on this chaos, and you do this by inventing the concept of the sacred. This starts simply. Maybe you believe the massive, terrifying bear you hunted has a spirit that must be appeased. Maybe you believe the success of the hunt is owed to a powerful ancestor who lives in the stars. Evidence of early spiritual practice, including carefully arranged burials, the use of ochre, a red pigment, in rituals, and the creation of enigmatic cave art, suggests that early Homo sapiens developed complex shared belief systems that went far beyond pragmatic survival. The chilling power of this shared belief is that it creates supranormal motivation. You are willing to perform acts of incredible bravery or terrifying brutality, not for a direct reward like a piece of meat, but for the approval of an invisible force. You are willing to go on a difficult, long-distance migration because the shaman, the specialized spiritual expert in your group, had a vision, promising lush pastures beyond the mountains. The idea unites your scattered groups into a cohesive, goal-oriented mass. The use of psychoactive plants and fungi to induce altered states of consciousness is thought by many to be intrinsically linked to the development of early shamanism. These substances acted as a chemical proof of the spiritual realm, allowing the shaman to communicate with the ancestors or spirits, thereby solidifying their authority and the group's acceptance of their terrifyingly binding rules. You literally used ancient psychedelics to structure early human civilization. This capacity for abstract thought, the ability to believe in something that is not immediately provable, is what makes your species so terrifyingly adaptable and dangerous. A lion only fights for territory or food. You will fight to the death because an ancestor spirit told you that the rival tribe's valley belongs to you. This is ideology, and it's arguably the most potent weapon you ever developed. Historians still argue whether the purpose of Paleolithic art, such as the famous cave paintings in Lascaux and Chabot, was purely aesthetic, a form of historical record, or if it was fundamentally religious or ritualistic, perhaps used as a focal point for hunting magic to ensure the success of the next persistence chase. Regardless, these ancient images prove you were investing massive amounts of time and energy into concepts outside of day-to-day survival. And finally, the spiritual realm justifies your darkest acts, including the cannibalism we discussed. If your ritualistic consumption is done to steal the soul or the power of a dead rival, it's no longer just murder. It's a necessary, terrifying religious rite. Spirituality transforms simple brutality into a mission. You have created a mechanism that allows thousands of individual wills to align under a single, shared purpose. You are not fighting as 50 individuals. You are fighting as one terrifying, ideologically driven force. The only thing standing in the way of your final domination is the last bastion of your Neanderthal cousins. You have the fire, the spears, the social structure, and now the terrifying unifying power of shared belief. It's time to complete the move, the final, slow, brutal takeover of a difficult, well-defended continent. This is the Cro-Magnon invasion of Europe, where the last remaining pockets of Neanderthals face the ultimate terror, a competitor who is physically weaker but systemically superior. Imagine arriving in Ice Age Europe, the same brutal, beautiful landscape where the Neanderthal has reigned supreme for hundreds of thousands of years. You, the Homo sapien newcomer, are often referred to by archaeologists in this context as Cro-Magnon, and your arrival marks a watershed moment. The confrontation is not a single decisive battle. It's a slow, grinding process played out over thousands of years, characterized by technological, logistical, and social warfare. The Neanderthals, remember, are specialized, incredibly powerful close-quarters hunters, perfectly adapted to the cold, but you bring an adaptable, generalized terror that they cannot match. You have long-range weapons, the atlatl and spear, giving you a terrifying advantage in open country. You can hunt safer and more efficiently. But more critically, you bring the ability to support a larger population density. Because you rely on a diverse diet, hunting everything from small birds caught with nets and snares, another technological leap, to reindeer caught with persistence running, you are less vulnerable to the extinction of a single megafaunal species than the Neanderthal, who specialized in dangerous large game hunts. Archaeological evidence shows that the Cro-Magnon diet was significantly broader and more varied than the Neanderthal diet, including fish, fowl, and small mammals, providing a crucial buffer against resource scarcity. This flexibility allows your population to grow and spread faster. You arrive in Europe as a trickle, but you soon become a flood. You occupy the strategic choke points, the well-insulated caves, the river crossings, and you hold them with your coalitionary violence. The Neanderthal groups, already small and highly localized, perhaps an evolutionary necessity for their heavy-duty hunting style, begin to feel the pressure. Every prime hunting ground they rely on is now occupied or contested. Every resource pinch point is blocked. The appearance of bone needles in the Cro-Magnon archaeological record is a subtle, yet profoundly terrifying indicator of their logistical superiority. The ability to sew tailored, layered clothing made from the hides of the animals you've run down means you can stay warmer, drier, and healthier than the Neanderthal, who may have relied on less effective cloaks and raw animal hides. This tiny, simple tool, the bone needle, is a massive technological edge that allows you to survive deeper into the coldest regions. You are effectively pushing the Neanderthal populations into increasingly marginal territories, fragmenting their already tenuous social structure. You don't have to defeat every Neanderthal group in battle, you just have to outcompete them for the best shelter and the most reliable food source until their small numbers are no longer genetically viable. Historians still argue whether the final disappearance of the Neanderthals was due to direct, violent conflict with Homo sapiens, or if the pressure of resource competition, coupled with factors like introduced disease and lower birth rates, caused a slow, inevitable demographic collapse. Regardless of the mechanism, the result is the same. One terrifying lineage replaces another across an entire continent. Your success is a testament to terrifying adaptability. You didn't become a master of one thing, you became proficient at everything: engineering, logistics, communication, planning, and long-distance organized warfare. When the last Neanderthal group fades, you look out over the vast, cold expanse of Europe, and you realize you have no more serious competitors. The terrifying power of Homo sapiens is now established across the entire Afro-Eurasian landmass. The planet is yours to dominate. But first, you have to find a terrifying new ally. You are now the undisputed ruler of the globe's major landmasses. You have outrun the prey, out-engineered the Neanderthal, and outwitted the Megafauna. But to survive the deepest phases of the Ice Age, mere efficiency isn't enough. You need total environmental mastery. Your greatest terror now lies in the ability to create your own perfectly controlled microclimate, transforming you from a wanderer into a resident of even the most brutal landscapes. Think back to the bone needles, a seemingly simple tool that unlocked massive survival advantages. That needle allowed for the construction of complex, layered clothing. You're no longer just wrapping yourself in a single thick hide. You are creating insulated jackets, trousers, boots, and even specialized mittens, all tailored to fit closely and trap maximum warmth. This isn't fashion, it's survival engineering. It allows you to spend more time hunting in the crippling cold, expanding your effective range, and protecting your children from exposure. But clothing is only half the equation. You also need a secure, movable base. You invent the customized, specialized shelter. Imagine a massive circular structure made from the bones and hides of dozens of those woolly mammoths you hunted to extinction. Archaeological discoveries, particularly in Eastern Europe, have revealed evidence of settlements featuring large circular dwellings constructed almost entirely of mammoth bones, including tusks used for support and interlocking jawbones used for walls. These were large, permanent or semi-permanent settlements that housed multiple families. This is terrifying for several reasons. First, it demonstrates your organizational capacity to collect, transport, and assemble massive structural components, far surpassing the logistical efforts of your predecessors. Second, it shows a profound level of resource recycling and optimization. The beast you killed for meat and fat is now providing your architectural security. You are taking the literal bodies of your defeated rivals in the ecosystem and building your home inside them. Within these specialized shelters, you are able to nurture the fire, allowing you to maintain a consistent, warm, dry environment. This is critical because it means you can keep your infants and elderly safe through the worst winters, dramatically lowering the mortality rate and ensuring population growth continues even when resources are lean. The sophisticated structural design of some of these bone and hide dwellings involved air vents and insulated flooring, creating an incredibly efficient thermal envelope. This level of environmental control is so advanced that it suggests early humans were already applying basic principles of fluid dynamics and insulation science, effectively creating the world's first custom tiny home ecosystems. You were not just surviving the Ice Age, you were heating and ventilating your way through it. Historians still argue whether the move to complex, semi-permanent settlements based on structures like mammoth bone huts fostered the necessity for more formalized social roles and leadership hierarchies, or if the strong leadership was already established and simply enabled the construction. Regardless, the logistics of building a mammoth bone house point to a terrifying degree of cooperation and planning. You have now created a shell around yourself, a terrifying combination of clothing, fire, and architecture that renders the external environment largely irrelevant. You are warm, dry, and safe, which frees up mental energy. You can spend less time worrying about freezing and more time engaging in abstract thought, developing those spiritual beliefs, and, more terrifyingly, engaging in advanced planning. This mastery of the environment transforms you into a truly planetary species. You are no longer confined to the tropics or temperate zones. You can live anywhere, provided you have the resources to build your shell. But there is still one key piece of assistance you need to truly cement your position as the apex species: a terrifying, hyper-aware partner who can extend your senses into the darkness. You have built the perfect mobile fortress of mammoth bones and tailored hides, allowing you to thrive in the harshest environments. Yet, for all your terrifying ingenuity, your long-distance running, your projectile weapons, your coalitionary violence, you still have innate biological weaknesses. You have a terrible sense of smell. You are slow to react in the dark. You are only awake for half the day. To achieve true total domination, you need to outsource your sensory shortcomings to an ally, the wolf. This is the chapter of the domestication of the wolf, one of the most chillingly effective strategic alliances ever forged on Earth. You didn't just tame a dog, you entered into a co-evolutionary pact with a terrifying, efficient hunter, transforming it into your perfect, loyal, four-legged biological tool. Imagine a pack of wolves lurking just beyond your firelight. They are attracted by the cooking smells and the discarded scraps. Most animals run from the fire. The wolves, the most intelligent and social of the carnivores, are curious. They maintain a respectful distance, observing your group's patterns. You, the early human, realize that the wolves are doing half your work for you. Their incredible senses, their nose that can detect a wounded elk kilometers away, their ears that catch the silent approach of a rival clan, are precisely the biological tools you lack. the terrifying bargain is struck, likely not through forced taming, but through a mutual realization of benefit. The less fearful wolves, the ones who could tolerate the proximity of humans and their fire, got easy, consistent access to high-fat bone scraps you were leaving behind. They didn't have to risk life and limb hunting a bison, they just had to hang out near your camp. In return, their presence acted as an immediate 24/7 alarm system. Genetic evidence suggests that the earliest dog domestication occurred at least 15,000 years ago, and possibly much earlier, making the dog the very first animal species domesticated by humans. This long-standing relationship implies that the alliance was fundamental to your species' late Ice Age success. The shift is terrifyingly profound. The wolf begins to evolve into the dog. Its skull shortens, its teeth become slightly less robust, and its innate fear of humans diminishes. But its hunting instinct and loyalty to the pack, the very traits that made it a terrifying predator, are channeled and focused entirely on serving your survival. Now, when you go out on that long persistence chase, your dogs run with you. They flush out the prey, track the blood trail, and harass the animal while you move in for the final lethal throw. You no longer need to rely solely on your own limited nose and eyes. You have externalized your senses. The domestication process is essentially an act of social parasitism. You exploited the wolf's existing pack hierarchy psychology, slotting yourself in as the alpha predator. The dog views your group as its pack, and its loyalty to you is total. This ability to integrate a hyper-carnivore into your social structure and direct its predatory skill is the ultimate testament to your psychological dominance. Historians still argue whether the initial driving force behind dog domestication was purely functional, a partnership for hunting and defense, or if there was a powerful social component, where the dog was also adopted for companionship and emotional support within the intense structure of the small human group. Regardless of the motive, the consequence was the creation of a terrifyingly efficient cross-species hunting unit. The dog becomes your four-legged weapon, your alarm bell, and your mobile radar system. Think of the psychological terror this new alliance projects. A rival group of humans now has to contend not just with your perfectly coordinated spear-throwing warriors, but also with a dedicated pack of loyal, high-speed, sharp-toothed animals defending your position. The odds of a surprise attack drop to nearly zero. You have now created the ultimate biological, technological terror, the human brain, engineered projectile weaponry, and the raw predatory power of the domesticated wolf, all working in horrifying, perfect concert. You are now truly ready to leave the nomadic life behind and cement your terrifying planetary legacy. You stand now at the precipice of a new world. You have successfully weaponized persistence, engineered distance killing, built a terrifying psychological bond of allegiance and conflict, and allied yourself with the wolf. You have successfully exterminated the megafauna, dominated your rival hominids, and conquered the environmental extremes. But the final, most terrifying chapter of your history is not about what you killed, but about what you started. You are witnessing the end of the Paleolithic era, the time of the nomadic hunter-gatherer, and the beginning of something far more demanding, far more controlling, and ultimately far more terrifying: the Neolithic Revolution. The world has changed. The massive herds of megafauna are gone, thanks to your efficient hunting. The climate has stabilized and warmed after the last glacial maximum. You are left with a massive population, refined tools, advanced social organization, and no longer enough easy games to support your highly efficient killing machine. The solution is the ultimate act of territorial terror. You decide to stop chasing the food and force the food to come to you. The shift to agriculture, beginning around 10,000 to 12,000 years ago in regions like the Fertile Crescent, marks the Neolithic Revolution. This involved the deliberate cultivation of wild grasses, like wheat and barley, and the domestication of hoofed animals, like goats and cattle. This move is the single most important transition in human history. This act is terrifying because it represents the total imposition of your will onto the natural world. You stop being a part of the ecosystem and become the ruthless manager of it. You select seeds not for natural survival, but for traits you find useful: larger yield, easier harvest, less natural dispersion. You become the creator of artificial ecosystems, dedicating massive amounts of energy to maintaining your specialized food supply. This change is brutal and demanding. You trade the freedom of the persistence chase for the backbreaking labor of the field. Early agriculturalists were often less healthy, shorter, and suffered from more skeletal deformities and infectious diseases than their nomadic ancestors. Yet you embraced it because it provided one terrifying thing: predictable surplus. That surplus fueled an explosion of population and social complexity. You could now support people who did not directly produce food: priests, artisans, specialized builders, and most terrifyingly, standing armies. You are creating the first true wealth, storable grain, and therefore you have to defend it. Some French theories suggest that the domestication of grains like barley was initially driven not by the need for bread, but by the desire for beer. The creation of early fermented beverages may have provided a safe source of calories and hydration, accelerating the adoption of agriculture. You traded a hunter's life for a farmer's life, all for a safe, storable buzz. Historians still argue whether the Neolithic Revolution was an intentional, superior choice made by early humans, or if it was an unintentional commitment, a slow, difficult process that humans adopted out of environmental necessity, locking themselves into a life of constant labor simply because there were too many mouths to feed. Regardless, the outcome is clear. You are no longer just a nomadic killer. You are a builder of villages, towns, and eventually cities. You have created an entirely new landscape of terror: the terror of hierarchy, the terror of taxation, early forms of mandatory grain sharing, and the terror of large-scale organized warfare over land ownership. The violence of the nomadic hunter-gatherer was often small-scale and personal. The violence of the agriculturalist is vast, impersonal, and justified by law and ideology. You have now completed your terrifying legacy. You transformed the planet from a vast wilderness where you were just one of many creatures into a landscape fundamentally dedicated to supporting your single species. Your species paved the way for every city, every system of governance, and every vast industrialized war that followed. You were, and remain, the most terrifying thing this planet has ever produced. The fire is dying now, the mammoth bone walls fading into the cold, quiet darkness. The long, terrifying chase is finally over. Feel the quiet exhaustion settling in, the same deep, ancient weariness that settled over the plains when the last great herd fell silent. It's time to let go of the spears and the fear, the tension in your shoulders, the adrenaline of the chase. Let it all soften. The terror you just explored, that cunning, persistent, efficient violence, is now safely tucked away in the past, a story from the deep night of history. You are no longer the apex scavenger. You are simply the listener, safe and warm in your modern, fire-lit dwelling. Breathe deeply. The world is quieter now, simplified by the great success and the great destruction of your ancestors. The only thing left to do is drift away from the shadows of those bone builders and the whispers of the persistence runner. Allow the quiet certainty of your survival to wash over you, and let the long, long night of the Ice Age finally fade into sleep. Sweet dreams.